whenever we woke up, and I woke up and he came home and he said, she's not in a crib. And I said, what do you mean she's not in a crib? And I just knew, something was really wrong. And we're running around the house and we're screaming for her and she was nowhere. And then I said, call 911, call 911. And he said, where are the phones? And they weren't on the counter where I left them. They were gone.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Across State Lines. I'm your host, Danielle. Thank you so much for tuning into episode 14 of the podcast, where we will be discussing the 2011 disappearance of baby Lisa Irwin out of Kansas City, Missouri. On an October night in 2011, Lisa's mother, Deborah, put Lisa into her crib for the evening, got her other children settled into their pajamas and on the couch for a movie, and sat on the front porch sharing some wine with a neighbor while her husband worked an overnight shift. At around 11:30 p.m., Deborah went to bed with her two young sons and slept until about 4 a.m., where her husband came home and woke her asking her where Lisa was. Her husband, Jeremy, had come home from his overnight shift and noticed that all the lights were on in the home, the window was open, the family's cell phones were missing, and most alarmingly, baby Lisa was nowhere to be found. A large search ensued for the missing child, and a lot of scrutiny was aimed at the family by police and the community alike. However, sightings of a man carrying a baby down the road in the middle of the night and a mysterious phone call from the family's stolen cell phone would change the opinions of people who thought that Deborah and Jeremy had anything to do with the disappearance of Lisa. The case even went international when a little girl resembling Lisa was discovered living in a camp in Greece. But to this day, Lisa Irwin has never been found. But before we dive into the case, I want to remind everyone that Across State Lines is available on all podcast streaming platforms, such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and anywhere else that you might listen. If you are liking Across State Lines and would like to leave us a rating or a review, it would be greatly appreciated. If you want to leave us any feedback, please visit our website and send us an email. Thank you so much for listening. And now, let's jump into the case of Lisa Irwin. Lisa Renee Irwin was born on November 11th, 2010, to parents Jeremy Irwin and Deborah Bradley in Kansas City, Missouri. Lisa had two older brothers, aged 5 and 8 in 2011, and Lisa was described by her parents as a sweet and happy baby who loved spending time with her older siblings who adored her. In October of 2011, Lisa's first birthday was quickly approaching, and the family was planning on celebrating within a few short weeks. However, Lisa would go missing before she was ever able to celebrate her first birthday. On the evening of Tuesday, October 4th, 2011, at around 6:40 p.m., Deborah Bradley put baby Lisa in her crib for the night, wearing purple shorts and a purple shirt with cats printed on it. She then fed her other children and got them into their pajamas and settled in for the night at their home on the 3600 block of North Lister Avenue. Around 7:30 p.m., Deborah checked in on Lisa to find her standing up in her crib, so she laid Lisa back down and quietly left the room. After Lisa was back asleep, and knowing she had the rest of the night to herself to relax, Deborah grabbed a bottle of wine and opened it with a neighbor named Samantha Brando, and the two sat drinking on the patio of the home for a while the other children were settled in on the couch, watching a movie. At some point, the two women called over a teenager in the neighborhood named Shane to join them in their conversation, and the three sat on the patio chatting enjoying each other's company for about an hour and a half. Shane later stated that he didn't witness the two women actively drinking, but was able to tell that they had been drinking prior to him coming to join them on the patio. Deborah had had her first night alone that evening, as her husband was working an overnight shift building a new Starbucks, and didn't expect him home into the early morning hours. In fact, this was the first time that Jeremy had ever worked an overnight shift before, which was something that had left Deborah feeling a little nervous, as she was used to her husband being home with her every evening. So she welcomed the company of her neighbor while he was away. However, a little after 10 p.m., Deborah and Samantha parted ways, and Deborah climbed into her own bed and went to sleep. Samantha claims that she went back over to her own home and sat on the patio where she smoked another cigarette and witnessed the lights in Deborah's house turn off. She spent roughly an hour and a half outside talking with Shane a bit more and turned into bed around 11:30 p.m. She later stated that the hour and a half that she was on the patio talking to Shane, that neither of them had seen anybody else in the area, nor any children. Around 4 a.m., Jeremy arrived home, and entering the house, he became instantly annoyed with his wife. The two had spoken a handful of times about their electric and heating bills and how to conserve money with their utilities. And when he entered the home, he found that the lights were on, the window was open in the computer room, which seemed to have been tampered with, and the front door had been left unlocked. On top of that, the family's 3 cell phones were missing from their usual spot. The 2 adults had 3 phones, which consisted of Jeremy's personal cell phone, Deborah's cell phone, which was broken, and a cell phone that Deborah's grandfather gave her to use until her cell phone was working again. That annoyance that Jeremy felt instantly turned into worry when he checked in on his sleeping infant, only to find that she wasn't in her crib. He immediately ran to his bedroom that he shared with his wife, and not finding Lisa in bed with Deborah, he woke his wife asking her where she was. Deborah was confused because she had checked in on Lisa at 10:30 and she had been sleeping. The couple had worried that perhaps somehow Lisa had managed to escape from her crib and leave the home, so they checked every inch of the house and up and down the streets, calling for her. Jeremy checked outside with a flashlight, and Deborah went over to Samantha's house and woke her up to ask if she had seen baby Lisa. When they were unable to find Lisa, Jeremy and Deborah called 911 to file a missing persons report, and an Amber Alert was immediately issued. However, despite an Amber Alert being issued for Lisa so quickly, it was strangely canceled the next day on October 4th. While police would state that the canceling of the Amber Alert was a technicality, the search for Lisa was still ongoing. It's never been stated why the Amber Alert was canceled, but it could have been for a handful of reasons. It may have been canceled because the police didn't have a description of a suspect to be on the lookout for, or police didn't believe that Lisa had been abducted in the first place.
When I came home from work, the front door was unlocked. Most of the lights were on in the house, and the window was in the front was open. Obviously, all very unusual. And then I started checking on the kids. Checked on the boys first, and then we checked on her. And that's when we realized she was gone.
The only thing I could think of is, maybe somebody wanted a baby and I hope that's what it is. She's everything. She's our little girl. She's completed our family, and she means everything to my boys, and we 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 need her home. I can't be without her.
Deborah, how are you explaining to the 2 boys what has happened? How are they taking all this in?
I just try to tell them, we're gonna stay strong. We're a family. We're gonna pray, and she's gonna come home.
This is her Barney. She sleeps with every night. Sometimes she won't go to sleep without it, so I'd like to have her back so she can have her Barney and her family, her brothers. We need her home.
Police arrived on scene and a search was conducted, which combed the neighborhood and extended into nearby fields and wells, but Lisa was nowhere to be found. As the investigation went on, the public began to look at Jeremy, and especially Deborah, in a different light. The public scrutinized Deborah for having stayed up getting drunk with the neighbor, and they began to notice cracks in her story. Deborah had been interrogated for over 12 hours the day after her daughter's disappearance and had volunteered to take a polygraph test to clear her name. During her interrogation, Deborah claimed that she could no longer be sure if she checked in on Lisa at 10:30 p.m. or 7 p.m., and she couldn't be completely certain of when she actually last saw Lisa. When they had asked her how much she had to drink the night that Lisa went missing, she initially said that she had a few glasses of wine, but later she would state that she couldn't put a number on how many glasses she had consumed, and admitted that she had been quite intoxicated. She claimed that she had drank so much that she blacked out and had no memory of checking in on Lisa any time after 6:40 p.m. She also claimed that she had been taking prescription medication at the time, which she used for anxiety.
Lisa's mother admitting in an interview with America Live that she was drunk the night of her daughter's disappearance, that she blacked out, and that she has no memory of checking on her little baby at any point after 6:30 p.m. Let's talk about the wine. How much did you consume that day?
I had several glasses of wine.
When you say several, more than 3?
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with her.
More than 5?
Probably.
More than 10?
No.
Was it just wine, or was there
Yeah, just
other
wine.
alcohol?
Just wine. Lisa was in bed, and the boys were laying down watching a movie with the neighbor's daughter.
Were you drunk?
Yeah.
Do you have a drinking problem?
No. Don't think so.
Some folks are going to have an issue with you having
Oh, I'm sure they are.
more than 5 drinks while you're looking after a little baby and 2 little boys.
She was sleeping. I don't see the problem in me having my grown-up time. I take good care of my kids. I keep my house clean. I do their laundry. I kiss their boo-boos. I fix them food. I'm involved in their school stuff. I mean, to me, there's nothing wrong with me doing what I want to do after dark. As soon as I'm done drinking, I go right to bed.
Is that what happened with you
Right. Which is why I don't do it till my kids are in bed.
Does it happen every night?
No.
How many times a week would you say?
Maybe a couple times a week.
How drunk were you?
Just drunk.
I mean, were you slurring your words? Were you stumbling?
I don't think so, no.
Is it possible you had a blackout?
It's a possibility. I mean, just like anybody else, when you drink, you don't remember the things that happen and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a possibility. But it once again has nothing to do with my daughter.
Is it possible you blacked out and something happened to Lisa during that time?
No.
Why?
I go to sleep every single time, and everybody knows me. Every time I drink anything, we've had get-togethers with family over the house, and everybody will be drinking and hanging out, playing pool and stuff. And I will, once I've had enough to drink, I just get really tired. I go right upstairs and right down and even say bye to people.
Not only does Deborah Bradley admit that she was drunk on the night in question, she also told America Live that she was taking prescription medication at the time. Did you take any drugs?
No.
Are you a drug user?
No.
Are you on any drugs?
No. I take anxiety medication, but I mean, it's not narcotic, no.
Even before this episode, this event?
Yeah.
Okay. And were you taking it that night?
Yeah, I take it every morning.
And in a bombshell development, Deborah is now changing her story about the critical night in question, about last seeing her daughter at 10:30 p.m. that evening. Deborah now claims for the first time that in fact the last time she saw her child alive that night was 4 hours earlier than she has been telling police. When you went in at 10:30 after the neighbor left, what did you do?
Probably went right to my room.
Why do you say probably?
Because sometimes I check on her. Well, most of the time I check on her. And then the boys, the room is right next to each other, and I sneak in and make sure, the boys had been awake, and I had went in there and told them they could come sleep in my bed. And so I'm assuming that I went and checked on her too, but I don't know.
You don't remember?
No.
So it's possible you did not check on her before you went to bed at 10:30.
Yeah, but there's no way that anybody could have got in.
So the last time you saw your daughter alive in your home was when you put her down at 6:40.
When I put her down, yeah.
Due to these inconsistencies and the public defaming of Deborah, the media began to focus on that rather than on the actual disappearance of baby Lisa. At this point, authorities were looking hard at Deborah, telling her that they knew she had something to do with her daughter's disappearance. Deborah was worried that with the police and FBI looking so hard at her, that they wouldn't be out looking for her daughter in the community. However, police did have one reason to believe that Deborah might be involved. On October 19th, police dogs were brought in to search for the scent of human decay when a search warrant was executed, and the dogs had alerted to an area in Deborah's bedroom near the foot of the bed. Investigators had also found a portion of the backyard where the dirt had been recently disturbed and dug up. When Deborah was confronted with these finds and asked if she had already searched the backyard, she stated that she didn't immediately want to search for Lisa because she was, quote, afraid of what she might find. During the search, numerous things were taken from the home, including a multicolored comforter, purple shorts, a multicolored Disney character shirt, a glowworm toy, a Cars-themed blanket, rolls of tape, and a tape dispenser. Shortly after the search warrant was executed and the dogs picked up the scent of decay, the police told Deborah that they know she did something to her daughter, stating to her, quote, you did it, and we have nothing. They then went on to tell Deborah that she was a terrible mother and had failed the polygraph test, perhaps in order to coerce a false confession. In reality, both Jeremy and Deborah passed their polygraph tests. And while that does sound terrible, police are legally allowed to lie to you during the course of an investigation in order to try to coerce a confession. Soon after word got out that the scent was picked up in the home, both Deborah and Jeremy would appear on the Today Show to plead their case to the public, with Jeremy saying, quote, we just want to make sure that we tell everybody that we're still cooperating. We're still talking to the police. We're doing everything we can to try to find Lisa and bring her home. End quote. Police would counter the parents' statement, taking to the media to say that both Jeremy and Deborah were no longer cooperating with the police or the investigation.
And I just sat there and I didn't even ask to leave. I didn't ask for it to stop. I wanted it to, but I didn't ask.
We just want to be sure that no matter what's going on today or yesterday or the other day, that people are still out there. People are still looking for her. She's still missing. She's still not home where she's supposed to be. Just thank everybody that's helped us so far, and we're just trying to. We need to find her and get her home.
We don't want anybody to feel like we're angry or we're ungrateful. We appreciate everything that everybody has done to try to bring her home, and that's our main goal. I don't care what they've done to me. I don't care what they say about me. I don't care what anybody says about me. I just want her to come home. Our focus is Lisa. Is our Lisa coming home to be with us where she belongs? And whatever I've got to do to get her home, we'll do it.
Looking hard at the parents, the police made the decision to search a nearby landfill, saying to the media that the search had to do with Lisa Irwin and they were searching for a body. Police searched in an area that the trash from the Irwin home would be dumped and told a news source that their main objective is to find Lisa and that they strongly believe that the parents' involvement in her disappearance was their best bet. Police also stated that they already discounted the fact that someone had entered the home through the open window the night that Lisa was taken, as the window was too small for an adult to fit through, that it was too far off the ground for someone to climb up and into, and that the dust on the windowsill had not been disturbed. At the end of the search in the landfill, authorities announced that nothing had been found. An anonymous out-of-state benefactor paid for the Irwins to retain a very prominent New York lawyer, Joe Tacopino, who is famous for representing the likes of Michael Jackson, Donald Trump, Joran Vandersloot, A$AP Rocky, and more. Joe Tacopino put out a lengthy statement regarding the investigation into the Irwins, which said, quote, "In an effort to bring their little girl Lisa Renee home after being kidnapped on October 4th, 2011, Debbie and Jeremy have given law enforcement officers in Kansas City their complete cooperation in all matters since the beginning of the investigation. Debbie and Jeremy want one thing, the safe return of their little girl. Jeremy Irwin and Deborah Bradley had no role in the disappearance of their daughter. They are praying for her safe return. They need the public to look for their little girl and the public to report anything that they think might help bring Lisa Renee home." On October 4th, 2011, at around 4 a.m., Jeremy and Debbie discovered that their 10-month-old daughter Lisa Renee was missing from her crib. Within minutes of this discovery, Jeremy called the police. From that moment forward, they have had one goal, which is to do whatever they can do to help the police find their daughter. To that end, Lisa's parents have signed consent forms for searches of their home, shed, cars, work van, and computer. They have given police full and unfettered access to their property. The latest release for a search of their home was signed on Monday, October 17th, 2011. In addition, Lisa's parents gave permission to the police to issue an Amber Alert. They agreed to have their little sons taken for interviews in a place that is specially trained for interviewing children. They have allowed the police to collect hair samples from their heads. They have given ink and graphite elimination prints when requested. They've consented to bugle swabs for themselves and their kids. They've allowed police to collect elimination smell swabs to use with the dogs, who are specially trained for searches. They've given police releases for Lisa's pediatrician records. Lisa's uncle has allowed searches of his home and property where the family is currently living. Lisa's uncle has consented to smell swabs for the dogs. Lisa's parents have consented to interviews at the police station on October 4th, 6th, 8th, 9th, 11th, and 13th. They've met with detectives in their home and reviewed mugshots together. In a part, they have spent approximately 40 hours answering police questions. They have taken all calls from detectives and answered the same questions again and again in the initial hours of the investigation. They tolerated accusations, volunteered to take polygraph exams, continued to work with detectives even after the interviewers turned their pointed accusations. Lisa's parents resisted the idea of working with lawyers because, as innocent parents, they didn't believe they needed any legal help. Family and friends were able to convince them otherwise. The police, however, have starved these parents by withholding information about the investigation. The police have isolated the parents and repeatedly told the press that they're not cooperating. Lisa's parents are cooperating with the investigation and will continue to offer their help in the search for their beautiful little girl. End quote.
Now, that lawyer held an afternoon news conference to defend Lisa's parents and question some of the actions of the Kansas City police.
And KMBC9's Michael Mahoney was there and begins our team coverage tonight. Michael?
This was a long interview. It took place here on the front lawn behind me. This is a relative's home here in the Northland. The new attorney, Joe Tacopino, tried to make several points during this, but there was one overwhelming point, that the parents of this missing baby should be treated as victims, not as suspects. Tacopino came out with Jeremy Irwin, Deb Bradley, and some others at mid-afternoon. He says he has been following the case from a distance for a week, and he believes the parents' story of a sudden abduction.
I have 5 children. If I believe for a second that either one of them were involved in the disappearance of baby Lisa, I just wouldn't be here.
Tacopino says the breakdown in talks between the police and the parents continues. It's been a week.
They want to be on the inside of it, not on the outside. And more importantly, it's hard to feel cooperative when people you're supposed to be cooperating with will come and at one point actually go as far as to indicate that they believe that you had some involvement.
Neither Deb Bradley nor Jeremy Irwin spoke to reporters at the news conference. Deb, however, told the Today Show Monday morning that she did not put Lisa to bed at 10:30, as she had first stated. It was more like 6:40 in the evening, a 4-hour time difference. Tacopina said if that was a big deal in the investigation, the authorities would have done something about it.
There are no recollections that have been frustrated discrepancies that have caused the police officers to take action.
Live here, Tapachino also announced that the days of the morning news interviews, like the one on Good Morning America today or the Today Show, are now over for the parents of Lisa Irwin. He says they won't be giving any more interviews for the foreseeable future, as the parents of the missing child, 11-month-old Lisa Irwin, now have a New York City criminal defense attorney on their side, and he'll be representing them in what he calls the investigation. He does not refer to it as a case. That's the latest from here. Back to you.
However, as the investigation was ongoing, a friend of Deborah's, Shirley Pfaff, came forward and claimed that she knew Deborah had a dark side to her. Shirley was interviewed by the Huffington Post, stating, quote, "When the story broke, it was a normal morning in my house. I got up, put on a pot of coffee, and turned on Good Morning America like usual, and I heard Deborah Bradley. I immediately thought, this can't be the Debbie that I know. It just seemed unreal until I walked back into the living room after hearing her voice. I just about collapsed. It just made me sick because I just couldn't put this girl Debbie past anything crazy. She was my friend at one time, and I loved to be around her. But when I saw the other side of her and got to know the true Debbie, I couldn't even believe I trusted her with anything. I am not shocked that her story has changed like the wind. That's typical Debbie." End quote. Shirley and Deborah had met while both women's husbands were stationed at Fort Bragg in 2002, and they had lived across the street from one another. It's unclear what happened between the two women that caused them to have a falling out, but Shirley's statement to the Huffington Post was powerful enough to intensify the speculation on the parents by the community. Shirley was shocked that anyone would back Deborah up, stating, quote, "I was friends with Debbie for some time. Then the friend I once grew fond of became a problem I had to deal with on a daily basis." End quote. Despite the police dog hits in the home and Shirley's testimony about Deborah, police did soon clear the family of any involvement, with little evidence to point in that direction. Not long after the disappearance, the 3 cell phones were discovered not far from the family home. When interviewed, a local handyman named John Tanko had claimed that his ex-girlfriend, Megan Wright, had been called at 11:57 on the night of Lisa's disappearance by one of these cell phones, and that the call lasted about 50 seconds. Megan denied that she was the one who answered the call, claiming that her cell phone was more like a community phone amongst her and her 7 friends that shared a house, and that a friend named Dane had answered the call when it came in.
There's been a lot of allegations online, people assuming that I'm hiding things, that I appear nervous on camera, which is true, but it's just because I'm camera shy. And when you put a camera 6 inches in front of my face, I'm going to look nervous. There's just there was people saying that I was still with Jersey when all this happened, that I'm still with him today, that I've been with him for 2 years. All of that is totally untrue. I met him 6 months ago. We dated for 5 months. Obviously didn't end up working out. I absolutely have nothing to do with this. The whole reason I'm involved with this case is just because I was trying to be nice and let people use my phone. People use it as a contact number for them, as a way for their friends to get a hold of them since I didn't have a phone at the time.
How did someone get your phone?
I just set it down on the table. I told everybody that I was going downstairs with my boyfriend at the time and some friends just to watch movies and hang out. Told them if they needed it, go ahead, feel free. And I was downstairs probably from 5 o'clock that night until midnight when I was looking for my phone again.
And you believe your boyfriend had the phone?
No. My friend, or not friend, acquaintance, Dane, right, from what I'm told, is the one that had the phone the majority of the evening. So.
Okay, so at the time that the mystery call came, what happened?
I'm not sure. From what I was told from people that were upstairs at the time, said that Dane had the phone all night. I don't know if it was answered, if it went to voicemail, if he was on the phone at the time. Honestly, I have no clue. I don't know if he answered and talked to somebody and tried to leave or what the deal is.
But you believe that this person had the phone all night?
From what I was told, yes. So, but without me actually being upstairs and seeing who had my phone, it's hard for me to say.
And where is this person now?
I have absolutely no idea. He fell off the face of the earth from what I've been told.
When asked about the cell phone, the private investigator hired by Lisa's parents said, quote, "This whole case hinges on who made that call and why. We firmly believe that the person who had that cell phone also had Lisa." End quote. There was no connection between the Irwins, Megan Wright, John Tanko, or Dane who answered the phone call that night. 6 months after the disappearance of Lisa Irwin, Dane was arrested after stabbing a man at a bowling alley, but luckily the man survived. Dane spoke to reporters about baby Lisa through text, telling them that he had nothing to do with the disappearance of Lisa and that he did not answer the call that night and does not know who placed the call. Megan Wright was adamant that Dane did in fact answer the call and that he had the phone the entire night and did not allow anyone else to use it that evening. Prior to Dane's arrest for the bowling alley stabbing, a private investigator working on behalf of the Irwins attempted to speak to Dane about the child's disappearance. But Dane told the investigator that he would only speak to him if he provided a full tank of gas every day and $100,000.
His words came in texts. "I have no connection with Megan Wright or the missing child," he said. Wright is the woman who identified the man, Dane, as having a phone that received the mystery call, a call sent by one of 3 phones missing from the Irwin home October 4th, the day baby Lisa disappeared. Police say Dane is not a suspect, so we're only identifying the man who texted by his first name. "I used Megan's cell phone to have my phone turned on and some rides lined up," Dane texted. In a September restraining order, a woman told a Clay County judge, Dane said he had, quote, "nothing to lose, and he would be satisfied, quote, once I'm dead, and he would kill me." In his text to NBC Action News, he didn't answer our follow-up question specifically about the phone missing from the Irwin home and whether he answered an 11:57 call, but did say the police have contact with me and have so the whole past month.
The same private investigator claimed to news outlets that he had gotten access to Megan's phone records and that the call placed from the stolen phone that night had actually never gone through and was never answered. However, police claimed that the call had in fact gone through and lasted about 60 seconds, meaning that the call was answered. Deborah and Jeremy, on the other hand, refuted the police statements, saying that even if the call had been placed, it wouldn't have possibly gone through because their cell phone service had been shut off due to non-payment. Despite this, the call was placed to Megan Wright's phone, whether it went through or not. Police have never stated which stolen phone the call was dialed from, and it's possible that the call was placed on Deborah's grandfather's phone, which was active and had not been shut off. Police stated that not only was the call placed, but the web browser was also used on the phone, and the voicemail had been attempted to be accessed. All of this information narrows down the time frame of when the abduction could have happened, sometime between 10:30 p.m. when Deborah went to sleep and 11:57 p.m. when the call to Megan's phone was placed. More witnesses began to come forward, claiming that around 2:30 a.m. on the morning Lisa disappeared, they had seen a man walking down the road carrying a baby. This baby was not dressed for the cold Midwestern weather, but instead was wearing only a diaper. One witness stated that he thought the sighting was so unusual that he had considered offering the man and the baby a ride home, but couldn't because he was riding his motorcycle. The witness had asked the man if everything was okay, obviously concerned for the baby who hadn't been wearing anything other than a diaper, but the man didn't say anything and just shook his head. Another couple who lived 3 houses down from Jeremy and Deborah also saw the same thing. They claimed they had seen a man wearing a white t-shirt who stood at about 5'7" and weighing between 140 and 150 pounds, again carrying a baby only in a diaper. They also thought this was so unusual that they reported the sighting to the police on the morning of October 4th. While Lisa was last seen in her home wearing shorts and a purple t-shirt, both sightings were consistent in stating the baby had no clothing on, with the neighbor saying, quote, "We seen the little arm, the leg. It didn't look like the baby had on any clothes, just a diaper." End quote. However, the timing seemed off for investigators, with an FBI agent stating this to ABC News, quote, "Are you going to logically abduct a child, let's say in the midnight area, then 2 to 4 hours later, you were spotted in the proximity of the neighborhood? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. It could be true, of course, but the logic of abducting a child is so you can take the child to some other location." End quote.
So tell me exactly what you did. You looked out this window. Tell me where your husband was and tell me what you saw.
My husband was standing right next to we had another vehicle out there, and he was standing at that vehicle, and he was looking, first he was looking down the street, and then all of a sudden he turned and he was looking at the gentleman because he was walking up that way.
So the man was walking up this hill. And what was he wearing? Just tell me, describe everything that you saw. Describe the baby. Tell me what you saw.
At that time, he was wearing like a dark colored pants and what we believe was a t-shirt, like a white t-shirt. And then he had the baby in his arms, and he had the baby's head kind of like this. So we just kind of seen the baby's arm, and then the leg was down here. And he was kind of just like, I don't know if he was trying to protect it from the cold or if he just, he was just holding the baby.
You're a mom, so tell me, did it look like somebody that was accustomed to carrying a baby?
Yes, it did.
It did. And did it stick out to you that on this chilly evening in the 40s, that somebody had a baby himself wearing a t-shirt and the baby not clothed?
Yes, it was pretty odd. And that's why my husband kind of waited a few minutes before he actually left for work. So then when he drove, the gentleman was still kind of walking. The gentleman wasn't actually like acting like suspicious or anything. He was just kind of walking at a steady pace, not in a hurry. Then the gentleman actually turned like he was going to go in the grass to go into one of the houses up the street. So that's why at that time we did not think anything of it.
Around the same time as the other sightings, a clerk at a local gas station had also seen a man matching the same description walking out of the woods. This was caught on surveillance footage, but sadly, since it's so blurry, it's impossible to tell if the man was carrying a baby or not. However, the clerk stated that he found it very odd to see a man walking out of the woods at that hour. The clerk also stated that it was so odd because the woods near the gas station do not have any walking trails, and that it is dense with trees and foliage, and not many people venture into it even during the daytime. A new lead came about when the investigators discovered the sightings of a dumpster fire nearby on the early morning hours of Lisa's disappearance, and around the same time and area as the man seen leaving the woods. The man who initially saw the fire stated that the flames were shooting several feet high into the air and that he believed some sort of accelerant had been used. This prompted the police to show burnt baby clothing discovered at the scene of the fire to Lisa's parents and a subsequent search of a local landfill, but it is unclear what became of this. This fire happened to take place in the same condo that Megan Wright had lived in, the girlfriend of John Tanko. Strangely, 1 month prior to this, Megan's car had also been set on fire in the exact same parking lot. John Tanko quickly became a person of interest in this case because he had been staying at a neighbor's home near the Irwins when the neighbor was out of town, as he was doing work on their house, and he had a history of setting fires. In fact, not long before Lisa's disappearance, John Tanko had spent 5 years in a prison in New Jersey for arson. On top of this, that stolen cell phone was used to place a call to Tanko's ex-girlfriend, and he also had a history of breaking and entering. Despite all this circumstantial evidence, John Tanko has never been charged in the abduction of Lisa Irwin and has never been named as anything more than a person of interest. Police did interview him and stated that he was cooperative with them and claimed that he had an alibi on the night of Lisa's disappearance, though never stated publicly what that alibi was. On top of this, out of the 4 witnesses who had seen the man walking with the baby in the middle of the night, only one witness had identified John Tanko out of a picture lineup as the man they had seen. The other 3 did not identify John as the man carrying the baby. Years later, the search for Lisa went international when the sighting of a blonde, blue-eyed young girl was found in Greece during a police drug raid. The young girl named Maria, who was 4, was living in a Romani camp when she was found in 2013. The parents of the girl claimed that she wasn't their daughter, but that they had took her in to raise her with their 5 other children, and she was legally adopted from Bulgaria. News about Maria being found in Greece began to spread all across the United States, and people believed that she may be missing Lisa Irwin. A DNA test was conducted and proved that Maria wasn't related to her adoptive parents. The girl was quickly put into foster care as they were trying to figure out if Maria was possibly Lisa Irwin. However, the ages didn't match, as Lisa would have been 3 and Maria was 4 years old. Additionally, the DNA test was able to link the young girl up with her real mother, who also lived in Greece. The biological mother of Maria, Sasha, stated that she gave birth to Maria in Greece while she was working there as an olive picker, but she had to give the child away as she couldn't afford to care for her.
Breaking news from overnight. Could the young mystery girl found in Greece actually be from the United States? Well, authorities are trying to identify the girl known as Maria. I mean, as you look at this little face here and the eyes, it's haunting to know that maybe she did not come from where everyone thought. Her parents say that she was adopted from Bulgaria, but one link investigators are looking into is that she could be an American child who disappeared about 2 years ago. Kara Phillips is joining us now with more on that. Now, she's called Maria, but they think that she could be Lisa Irwin. Remind us of that case.
Yeah, and can I tell you, when you brought it, when you look at that little
It's
face
haunting.
and her little braids, and you're just like, oh my God, as a mom,
Yeah.
ugh.
What do we know as far as the story? I already said that the parents say she was adopted legally from Bulgaria.
Right.
Now, do authorities suspect that the parents are travelers, so to speak?
Yeah, exactly. It's that culture.
Yeah.
And, when we think of the culture, you think of, okay, big hoop earrings and lots of, fancy dresses, right? That's how we see it. But actually, there is a huge community of in the United States, about 1 million here in the US. And, they operate by their own rules. I mean, they have their own language, their own court system, their own laws, they're homeschooled.
Greek police, Interpol, and charity organizations have confirmed the parents of a mysterious blonde girl known as Maria, who was found during a Roma drug raid.
Bulgarian police now confirmed to NBC that DNA of a couple in that country matches the 4-year-old girl's. Prosecutors in Bulgaria are investigating the 38-year-old mother for allegedly selling her child. The parents are also Roma.
This is her mother, Sasha Ruseva is her name. She said she gave birth to a baby girl in Greece 4 years ago while she was working as an olive picker. The 35-year-old Bulgarian woman says she gave the child away because she was too poor to care for her.
But now the question is how the transfer of the little girl took place.
It seems that there was a consensual transfer. It's just a question now, I suppose, of whether there was money involved. The transfer of a child from one family to another, let alone one country to another, of course, is not a legal thing. So clearly there were rules and some laws that were infringed.
The Greek couple who insisted Maria was given to them to care for were arrested on charges of abducting a minor and forging official documents upon the child's discovery.
When this lead fell through, police were back to the drawing board in hopes of finding Lisa. A year later, Lisa's parents reported that their credit card had been fraudulently used on a website to order fake birth certificates. Both the Today Show, America Live, and Jeremy and Deborah's private investigator confirmed the existence of this website, but it is unclear whether or not this fraud was linked to the disappearance of Lisa or whose name the birth certificate was ordered for. Sadly, Lisa Irwin has never been found. If Lisa is still alive today, she would have turned 14 this month. Lisa's family still holds out hope that their questions about Lisa's whereabouts may one day be answered, and there is a $100,000 reward put in place by an anonymous benefactor. Police believe that Lisa may still be alive, and may be going under a different name. Deborah and Jeremy hold out hope that they one day might be reunited with their daughter, and that their two sons will get to know their sister, who they adored so much. Now, let's dive into the theories of this case. It seems like most people fall into two separate camps when it comes to the case of Lisa Irwin. Some people are adamant that the parents had something to do with her disappearance, and others believe that the parents are being truthful and that she was abducted. So let's dive into both theories and dissect them. First, we have the parents, or specifically Deborah, having done something to harm baby Lisa. The evidence that points to that is the dogs picking up the smell of decay at the foot of the Irwins' bed, and the small, mostly overlooked detail that the police confiscated purple shorts during their search warrant. Remember, Lisa was put to sleep wearing purple shorts and a purple shirt. Now, as far as the smell of decay that the dogs picked up, I can see that going either way. Perhaps it came from Lisa, or perhaps, since the home was old, that scent was picked up from someone else who may have passed away in the home. What's odd to me is that if the scent was from Lisa, there didn't seem to have been enough time for this to happen. Decay begins to set in within 12 to 72 hours after death, with the earliest stage at 12 hours being rigor mortis. Lisa was last seen at 6:40 at the earliest, and Jeremy claimed that he had seen Lisa alive and well before he went to work. The parents called the police at around 4 a.m., which leaves us the max of about a 10-hour window. That wouldn't typically be enough time for even rigor mortis to have set in. As far as the purple shorts, the police did take them for a reason, most likely because they believed that those were the shorts Lisa had been wearing that night. But that can't be said with any certainty. It's unclear what may have been found on the shorts, if they're what Lisa had been wearing, or if they're even related to the case at all. One theory that floats around about the parents being involved is that Lisa may have accidentally been suffocated in Deborah's bed. Deborah had gone to sleep in the same bed as her two sons that night, so co-sleeping seemed to have been a thing in their household. Many people believe that Deborah had brought baby Lisa into her bed as well and had gone to sleep, and somehow rolled over onto the baby, which prevented her breathing, or the baby got tangled under some blankets. This would correspond with the dogs picking up the scent of decay near the bed, if decay had even set in. Many people point to the fact that Deborah was drunk and may have been sleeping too deeply and not have realized that she rolled over on the baby. But, of course, that is just speculation, and I'm not here to judge another mother for the choices that she makes when she felt like she had time alone. The drinking may have played a factor, but it also may not have, so I'm not going to speculate either way on that. Many people also point to the fact that Deborah seemed defensive in some of her interviews, and that they believe that points to a sign of guilt. However, the media, community, and police hounded these parents from day one, pointing the finger at them. Even if they are innocent, how many of us wouldn't come off as defensive if the entire nation was blaming you for the death of your child? How many of us wouldn't become defensive for being looked down upon for drinking when we felt we had the time alone with a friend? Whether you agree with Deborah's choices or not that evening is solely up to you. But if Deborah is innocent for the death of her child, she absolutely got dealt a bad hand in the eyes of the public, police, and national scrutiny. Now, let's move on to the theory of a stranger abduction. A handful of things point to this theory as well. We have the stolen cell phones that had been used to place a call to a woman that the Irwins didn't know. The window had appeared to be tampered with. A man was seen carrying a baby and a diaper, and then reappearing sometime later without a baby in his arms. And the front door had been left unlocked. I know the police stated that they didn't believe that anyone would have climbed through the window because it was too small and the dust wasn't disturbed. But what if an abductor simply tried the front door and was successful in assuming it was unlocked? The fact that the cell phone was used to call Megan Wright speaks volumes to me. The Irwins hadn't known her whatsoever, and her boyfriend happened to be in the same area where Lisa had gone missing, and had a record for breaking and entering. One man, specifically the man who had stopped and spoken to the person carrying the baby that night, had identified John Tanko as the man in the white shirt that he had seen, and strangely, a fire had been started in the dumpster of Megan's apartment complex. During this fire, an accelerant was used, and burnt baby clothes were found and shown to Lisa's parents. Not only that, Megan's car had been set on fire only a few weeks before in the same complex, and John Tanko had a history of setting fires. I know that the police stated that John Tanko had an alibi, but I wonder if they truly verified that just beyond taking his word or someone else's word. A theory that has gone around is that John abducted baby Lisa to present to Megan Wright, and while that might seem a bit silly on the surface, it could possibly hold some weight. Megan had previously told John that she wanted a baby, and a few weeks before Lisa had gone missing, Megan broke up with John. The theory goes that John had been breaking and entering into homes in the Irwin neighborhood, and that he had entered the Irwin home and began to grab the cell phones to steal. He may have heard baby Lisa crying and went into her room and made the rash decision to take her. Perhaps he brought Lisa to Megan in order to win her back, and she told him, "What the fuck are you doing? You need to bring that baby back where you found it." And when he began to walk back towards the Irwin home, he noticed that the police were already there. At this point, maybe John had no idea what to do with Lisa and ended up killing her and disposing her in the woods nearby. Again, this is just a theory I have seen floating around about this case, and not one that I necessarily subscribe to. But as out there as it sounds, I suppose nothing is impossible. The fact that the phone was used to dial Megan's number does speak volumes to me, however, and the fact that John Tanko was only a few houses down from the Irwins that night doesn't feel like a coincidence. In all, I personally lean towards the intruder theory in this case. When I first began to research it, that wasn't how I felt at all. I felt that the Irwins must have accidentally harmed their baby and were attempting to cover it up somehow. But all the evidence seems to point in the other direction. The phone, the man carrying the baby, the fire, the shady people surrounding this case. However, I would love to hear your opinion or theories about this case if you'd like to leave a comment or an email wherever you're listening. I can only hope that baby Lisa is still alive out there and just doesn't know that she is a missing person, and that she may one day come home to her family that misses and loves her. In a case that is very sad and tragic all around, that would be the best case scenario. Thank you so much for listening to Across State Lines, and we will be back next week to dive into another unsolved case. Please follow or subscribe to Across State Lines on your podcast listening platform, so that way new episodes will drop directly into your listening feed. If you'd like to rate or review Across State Lines on whatever platform you listen to, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much, and join us again next week.